We are headed east on Highway 60. We came out of Springfield this morning about 45 minutes ago, and we just passed through the little town of Seymour about 4 or 5 miles back, and we're going to take a right. We're going to go south on Highway O, which is coming up here on the right. You'll see a sign that says Cedar Gap 1 mile and the Cedar Gap Conservation Area 1 mile. Okay. So we're gonna head south on O. I'm gonna reset the trip meter on the truck here, and if we remember to check it at the end of when we get to Panther Hallow, we'll know how far it was off of Highway 60. So generally, or in the past I should say, we've come into Panther Hallow essentially from the south rather than turning onto Highway O like we just did. We would have kept going on Highway 60 another 3-4 miles to the town of Mansfield, and then taking Highway B southerly and taking county roads from there to come into the property from the south. There is, however, a road that comes into Panther Hallow from the north. We just really haven't used it in the past because the county hadn't maintained it for quite a few years. But now we've been told that the county has kind of come through and cleaned it up a little bit, so that's the way we're headed today. So I guess this is the actual town of Cedar Gap. Until just now I didn't know that there was one. But there are a couple houses. I guess this was a town at one point. The Cedar Gap Conservation Area is right up ahead. Yeah, we won't pull in and look at that, but kind of show you where that is. It's super close to Panther Hallow, and it's several hundred acres of land that's generally open to the public for hunting and hiking. They've got a nice trail system through there. Okay, so you can see we've gone about a mile, and it's just turned to gravel. So we went from Highway O to probably some county road. Okay, so here we've got a set of train tracks. And we're gonna remember our driver's ed and come to a complete stop. Look both ways. Looks good. Okay, so once you cross the tracks, if you were to go straight, that's a parking area for the Cedar Gap Conservation Area. I don't know if you can actually see the signs in the video. So if you wanted to check out the trails or explore that, that's a place you could park. Instead, we're going to immediately turn left after crossing the train tracks, and the county road continues. It's going to run parallel with the tracks for just a couple hundred yards, and then it's going to cut to the south. Okay, so yeah, we've really only gone a few hundred feet, and now it's going to cut to the south. There's a sign that says dead end. It's not. That's a neighbor being funny. Okay, so now this is going to head southerly. It actually cuts across part of the Cedar Gap Conservation Area, so we might see signs for that in a mile or so. And this is going to bring us down to Bryant Creek, and we've been told that there is a new concrete bridge or crossing or whatever over Bryant Creek on this road, and there never was in the past, so that's going to be cool to see. We've only got, well, I'm not sure, a couple miles maybe. I don't know if we've got a mile and a half already. I don't know if we'll leave the video running the whole time. We might end it and just turn it on when we get to something a little more interesting. I guess for now we'll leave it running so you can see everything here. we're thinking that this will be a quicker way to get to the property from Highway 60 rather than going over to Mansfield, cutting south, and then, you know, heading north again to get to Panther Hallow. But we'll find out. And this road is actually in what we would call decent shape. It is a gravel road, and it's certainly not a big, wide, fancy gravel road. But it looks like the county has done some work out here. Yeah, so this is kind of cool. You'll see a conservation department sign right there. So the road actually kind of cuts through the conservation area. So from Panther Hallow, if you wanted to get to the conservation area to explore it and use it, you wouldn't necessarily have to go back to that parking area, because this is conservation land as well. And at some point we'll be on private land again. But if you look at the MapRight app, I think you may have to have the paid version for this feature, but there is a feature where you can turn on a layer that shows public land, and that shows the conservation area really well, and you can see where this road crosses over it. Okay, so now we're probably leaving the conservation area, because looking back, there's another conservation sign. Very private out here. We see deer and often turkey, but we see deer pretty much every time we're out here at Panther Hallow. Looking at the road here, it looks like there are some areas where if it had been raining, it might be rutted up. Hard to tell because it hasn't rained for about a week. But as I look kind of at the road as we're driving, it does look like there are some areas that could be softer if it had been raining. So I mean, definitely make sure you have a four-wheel drive. They're gonna head back here. And pretty soon we'll start kind of sloping downwards as we get closer to Bryant Creek, and that will mean that we're getting much closer to Panther Hallow. Okay, so now we're kind of starting a gradual decline here as we get closer to Bryant Creek. Now this is interesting. We will cross Bryant Creek, and it may or may not be running. This is actually toward the headwaters of Bryant Creek. This is a pretty cool landmark. Old concrete structure there, very old. And we're told that used to be the school in the area. That's not within the conservation area, that is on private ground. But Bryant Creek in this section is definitely it's not big in this section, because the headwaters of Bryant Creek, according to the maps we've seen, are actually within the Cedar Gap conservation area. So that's where Bryant Creek begins. It's spring fed, and then it gets bigger and bigger, and actually eventually flows into Norfolk Lake down by Tecumseh, Missouri. Bryant Creek is an extremely popular creek in the Ozarks for floating and fishing and all that good stuff. But up here toward the headwaters of Bryant Creek, it'll be much smaller, but really, really pretty. And we'll see that in just about 30 seconds, actually. So we're almost to the bottom here, that's what's called a low water bridge, and it's designed essentially for the water to run right underneath it. And this is the first time we've seen this section without water. There are some pools of water down there, but it has been unusually dry, so that's not too surprising. Okay. So really, as soon as we've crossed over that bridge, within just a few feet, we're looking at a couple of the tracks in Panther Hallow, but we're going to drive up to the top, to the main entrance to Panther Hallow. Oops. And see what that looks like. So it looks like the county really had upgraded the road to the bridge over Bryant Creek. That was 3.4 miles since we turned off of Highway 60. So yeah, we are at Panther Hallow, but we've got to go up this hill to get to the kind of the main entrance that'll take us to the majority of the tracts. There are a couple tracts down here by Bryant Creek, but we're going to drive up the hill and get to the gate. And we might as well just leave this running and see what we can see. We are in a four-wheel drive. We always use a four-wheel drive. We're going to leave it in two-wheel drive to see if we even need four-wheel drive. And we may or may not. So this is actually still the county road. It just looks like they really haven't. They've probably kind of graded this a couple times. But you still obviously do want a four-wheel drive truck or SUV. And really that's for several reasons. One of them is, you know, the four-wheel drive obviously is great to have it if you need it. We always around the office talk about the fact that 99% of the time you don't need a four-wheel drive, but that 1% when you do really makes it worthwhile. So yeah, the actual four-wheel drive is great, especially if you find some rough conditions in the road or whatnot. But then two other major things: a four-wheel drive truck or SUV is going to have more ground clearance than a car. With a car, you might only have 3, 4, 6 inches of ground clearance, but on most trucks or SUVs, especially four-wheel drives, you might have a foot or more of ground clearance, which makes a big deal if you're on a gravel road, or if the road is rutted, or if you hit some bad spots. And then the third major reason why a four-wheel drive is highly recommended is a four-wheel drive is going to come from the factory with a better grade of tire. It's going to come with a thicker tire, where a car might only have 4-ply tires, and the sidewalls are generally less than the tread, so the sidewalls might only be 2-ply. A truck or an SUV is going to come from the factory with a 6 or 8 or 10-ply tire, and that is so much better on any gravel road. I mean, we talk to people all the time who come in from out of state and they're in a car and they get flats just on the normal county gravel roads, and that's just because a lot of the cars on the market, their tires are simply not designed for gravel roads. They don't have enough thickness or ply, or however you want to put it. Okay, so we've come to the top here, and we've just come back on to the much more maintained section of County Road. I noticed the video was blurry. I hope it wasn't blurry the whole time up. If it was, then we apologize for that. But this is as we just said, this is still county road, but this is obviously a section that the county maintains quite a bit more. And we've got Panther Hallow on the left, so we're going to have the main entrance to Panther Hallow in just a few feet, and there it is on the left. Okay. So county road keeps going. There's another smaller entrance to Panther Hallow on the south side, but this would be the main entrance right here. There goes a dove. You can see survey pins. These tracks are surveyed. It's not a requirement, but we like to have that done when we can. And the tracks at Panther Hallow are surveyed. Okay, so to this main entrance at Panther Hallow, from Highway 60, 4.2 miles. Very cool. So we'll probably go ahead and drive on into Panther Hallow and have a look around and see what we can see.